Hey guys, it's Zero here again. I recently did a video on some terrain, one of the terrain sets from one of the Infinity starter sets, the Infinity game from Corvus Belli. Actually, this stuff here, the shipping containers, and the just fold up cardboard scenery. So it got me to thinking about some of the terrain I use in a lot of the games that we play, and some of the stuff I've picked up throughout the years, and just general thought process of cardboard versus plastic. Right here I have some cardboard buildings. These are like kind of like paper craft. Just a little fantasy cottage. You see, I'll show you in a second. I picked this up, actually a couple sets of these back in the day. Man, almost 10-15 years ago. I think, maybe not, maybe I might be overestimating. It was a while ago. And I got this set. It's a Dungeons and Dragons map folio. It's 3D maps. This was during the 3.5 era of D&D. I apologize, it's pretty. Camera's a little lower because I wanted to show you guys some of this terrain. But this came with second. This came with sheets of cardstock, and you could build some of this stuff for a town. Like this is a castle wall, you've got the top of the wall, the bottom of the wall, the ramparts, so you cut this out and you either glue or there's a dormer goes on a medieval inn. That's what this one is called. Now some of these, like I said, I've already built. We had at the clubhouse, and it was pretty cool. It worked for all kinds of stuff. Obviously for D&D, and it goes on. There's cottages, there's barns, castles. You've got doors and windows and all kinds of things you can cut out. There's a base for the blacksmith shop, which is one of the pieces you could build. It's like a little forge or something. The smithy, sorry. They're pretty cool. They actually ruined one, like it says smithy, but it's like ruined. And there's the. Now I haven't put a bunch of these together. Actually, all of these I actually built at one point or another in time. And I got to be honest, at the time it was pretty cool. Here's one of the towers. It's pretty tall. It's actually, I'll tell you right now, from base to floor plate is 10 inches tall. So, I used very little glue because this is like thin cardstock. So if you use glue, it's just gonna deteriorate, fall apart. So I used a lot of masking tape, like the Scotch tape, the soft clear, not the shiny stuff, but the other stuff. And as I said, it actually worked for the time. I mean, it's got its pros and cons. Pros, this book was super cheap. It was like $20, and you got all these different pieces of scenery you could adorn your town with or whatever. Build. You could use it for wargaming, which we did. That's what we mainly use it for. We did use it for D&D. I did some adventures in town, and I wanted to have some combat, so I just threw these down, and they were perfect. Used them in wargaming a lot. Warhammer 40K and fantasy and all that stuff. And actually, what I really like about these, the only thing I actually really like, aside from it was really cheap at the time, was that when you take pictures with actual other stuff and you do battle reports and stuff, this stuff lends well to photos for some reason. Like, it just looks good in the background, which is what it should do. You know what I mean? It doesn't stand out or overtake your miniatures. It just looks decent in the background. You know, some people couldn't tell that they were actually cardstock buildings. You know, they've gotten a little bit better throughout the years. You know, this is from Corvus Belli. Like I said, I did a video on this stuff. You know, it's just real quick. Same thing, cardstock. It's a little thicker than the other stuff, but it was made for miniature wargaming in purpose. So they wanted to make it a little tougher. But this is very squared, very fold, boom. You don't need any tape, you don't need any glue, nothing like that. You just fold it up and it pops right up, and there you go. You've got your scenery. You know, again, price wise, I think I paid $11 shipped at the time for this packet of scenery from Corvus Belli. I actually got it off eBay. It's the Infinity Mototronica scenery pack. It came with a box set, but you could actually buy these separate. And there's tons of different variations of this. There's different like corporate places like that you could, you know, you get the map, you get a full-on map, which is like 33 by 24 inches. So pretty nice size map. And I got it for 11 bucks. Now it's like 15, 16 bucks. Still a really good deal for some pretty decent cardstock scenery. And again, this was really cool if you just wanted to throw down some scenery for a really small space, you know. Or we did a sci-fi role-playing game at one point, and I had my team, or I had the players, go to a hangar bay to pick up a starship, and I used this scenery, and they were blown away. And it, like I said, it was real cheap, really, you know, really affordable. And it worked. It worked for what it was. Granted, just like the other stuff, the con is, you know, it's cardboard, and I don't expect using this, you know, on and off, on and off, on and off. I don't expect this stuff to last that long. And then, to be honest, it's flimsy. You know what I mean? Like, it's cardboard. It's this stuff will tear. This stuff will break. It gets a little wet, or it gets a little, even if it's humid out, it gets a little mushy, you know, because it's cardboard. So longevity wise, I don't know. It's not going to last unless, I mean, this has lasted me because I've kept it in the package and I've only used it once in a game. And as soon as we were done with that adventure, I folded this stuff. I didn't even wait till the game to be done. I just folded this stuff up after the adventure or the combat situation, and then I put it away. And it was just kind of like, my guys were like, man, you're paranoid. But I was like, yo, it's cardboard. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, you know, that. And I also pick up plastic scenery. You know, if you guys watch some of my other videos, I've done open boxes on some of this stuff, you know, like this, for example. This is a Reaper Miniatures shipping container. This was like 10 bucks shipped. I think they're like $8.50 at the store, but it was like $10 shipped for me, so I was like, whatever, it worked out. But for $10, I got this one piece of scenery as opposed to a whole packet of scenery for 11. But I mean, comparatively, this is hard plastic. This is going nowhere unless it melts, you know. Like if I did something horrendous to it and I, you know, put it in the wrong place and didn't take care of it, and whatever, it melted in the heat, or someone burned down, God forbid, you know, where I had my scenery, you know, then they were looking to do some damage. But unless this gets thrown out or purposely damaged, it will last a very, 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 very long time. And that's just proof in the pudding. I mean, I have scenery kits in plastic that we picked up 15, 16 years ago. That's still good, still solid. Looks ugly because we painted it bad or whatever, but you know, it's solid. These are the ones from Games Workshop, the scenery set that I picked up from them. And you can see, this is a shipping container from Games Workshop, and you can see there's a huge difference in detail. Like, this has all kinds of 40K written all over it. It's got all kinds of iconography. There's little eagles here. These little eagles actually are where you stack them. Like, they actually have stacking. I did a video on these, and I was actually showing that, you know, you could put them on top of each other, but they were pretty much, they didn't stack. These actually stack. And they have little pegs for weapons and stuff like that. But, you know, you're paying a big difference in price, right? For a set of 3 of these with some plastic barrels and some plastic ammo crates, you're paying like 50 bucks. You know, so if you break that down, that's nowhere near this cost. But still, they're both plastic. So, you know, given, you know, the nature of storage, they should last, you know. And while this stuff is, like I said, it's really cool, it's very affordable, and if you don't glue anything together, you could actually unfold these and store them, and they take up the space of a book, which that's actually really cool. Storage wise for these things, I mean, you gotta, you know, you gotta find creative ways to store your scenery. Anybody who has a collection of plastic scenery knows you've got bins, cardboard boxes. You know, I've even got stuff with packing peanuts in it because, you know, the stuff just, it needs to be stored, you know, and it takes up a ton of space. But I feel like with this, you can only go so far as far as dynamics. You can only go so big. You know, sure, you could, you know, there's plastic craft stuff. You can get like giant buildings in cardboard or paper craft. Sorry, they make a ton of that stuff now. It's actually really cool, really advanced. But you know, I don't feel that it supports this. You know, these minis. I don't feel that it supports them, or could, you know, in a larger scale. I mean, unless you do some serious reinforcements, you know, like lining this stuff with plastic card or wood, you know, like balsa wood or something. And that's the instance. If you're going to go through that length to actually reinforce paper with balsa wood and plastic card, you might as well just get plastic scenery. Unless you have an unlimited supply of balsa wood and plastic card, then by all means, knock your socks off. And I've done some pretty cool projects with balsa wood and plastic card. Some of my buddies, my buddy Joe, he's a great fabricator. He's built tons of scenery with just foam board, plastic card, you know, balsa wood. We've done a whole fantasy village. You guys could check that video out too, with cardboard, balsa wood, foam, you know, materials, building materials, you know. And yeah, it's actually cheaper than this stuff. You know, this stuff's pretty expensive compared to building your own scenery. But, you know, it goes back to this is plastic. It's already pre-molded. You get stuff like this, you know, you get stuff like this stuff, and arguably, yeah, it's like, well, that's a really cool piece of scenery, you know. You just gotta build it and paint it, you know. And compared to the stuff we make ourselves, which we could, not to this level of detail, obviously, but we could make this stuff or close to it, you know. It just won't look as dynamic, won't look as intricate, you know, in certain instances. And a lot of times we've even kit bashed where we've taken plastic model kits like this and then added to it with cardboard, foam core, just to expand it, you know, to make it a bigger piece than what it actually was in the box. Or if we had leftover bits, you know, most of the time that's what it was. We have leftover bits, it's like, hey, use those Necromunda walls to make a tower, you know, or whatever. And it worked. It's just the problem with, my big problem or con with homemade scenery again, is storage, because you can go big, you can go elaborate, you can go real crazy, but then you have to put that stuff away. Unless you intend on it sitting there the entire time out in the open, and you have a space dedicated to gaming, that table is only what it's for, great for you. But if you don't, and you're normal and you have normal shit you got to put away, you got to clean up after yourself or whatever, those big elaborate pieces eventually dilapidate. They start to fall apart, they get damaged. Somebody puts it in the box that it's supposed to go in the wrong way, and now you've jacked up something you built. And while I encourage being creative and building your own scenery, I encourage that. I feel like you do need to prepare for the after. Like, what happens when you build a piece of scenery? Where do you put it? Where does it go after? Here's another piece of, it's technically terrain, even though it's a model kit. It is plastic. I'm in the middle of finishing it up, painting wise, so I apologize. But it's getting there. But when you can have stuff like this, and this is it's, for the price of this box set, it was like $25 or something, $30 shipped. I could have bought a ton of material. I could build almost a whole table's worth of material with that money. But the problem is, when you store stuff like this, I can just take that, you know what I'm saying, and like, boom, it's stored, you know what I mean, and it's solid. It could take a hit. Granted, it's not, you don't want it to get damaged, you don't want it to get hurt, or it fall or break. It will break. This will get damaged if you drop it from a considerable height or whatever. If somebody steps on it or drops it, or jacks it up on an accident, does. But it, for storage purposes, they last a little bit longer than the homemade stuff. And I know, trust me, I've gone through tons and tons of homemade scenery that we've built, we've played with, we played tons of games on, but we've had to constantly repair, or we had to throw out because of damage. And damage done, just by happenstance. Someone put it in the box the wrong way. My buddy's basement got flooded one time. That was a natural disaster. You couldn't help that. But the whole basement got flooded. Everything we built literally dissolved. We had like blobs of foam floating around because it just dissolved, and it was very disheartening to see that. And it was just kind of like, wow. So for me at that point, I was like, well, some of this plastic stuff, the worst that could happen, you lose the paint, maybe the glue comes off, no big deal. That stuff it's gonna stay, It's pretty solid. Now, there's little fiddly bits, like I've got this little light pole on there. I didn't need to put that on there, but I thought it would look cool, so I threw it on there. I'm pretty sure that's gonna break. Eventually someone's gonna snap that off. This little arm right here, this little mechanical arm, that actually comes off. I actually have it magnetized so that I could put it in different areas depending on the game we're playing or the necessity of it. But that's one of those little pieces. You could actually magnetize this whole thing so that you could take everything off and put it away. I chose not to. I chose to glue a lot of this stuff. But, I think that it speaks for itself when it's done. But the big my cons for plastic scenery, not many, but I do have them. Biggest thing is the price. They're beautiful pieces, they're elaborate, they're extremely detailed. As you can see, that's just some phenomenal detail. All that stuff is just, sculpting is just amazing, but they're extremely expensive on the average. Yes, you can come across stuff like this that's cheaper, but you can't, what are you gonna do? You have a whole table full of scatter terrain, I guess. I always say buy smart, buy cheap as best as you can. Try to look for deals, look for online purchase deals, things like that. Stuff that gives you discounts. Place stores that give you discounts, go to them. You know, those stores are phenomenal. You know, if you have one in your area and you can get it, great, do it, knock it out. Biggest thing for me is price on scenery. It's just too expensive at times. Some kits are just ridiculously expensive. Beautiful kits, like some of the resin scenery, it's just too expensive, man. I can't afford it. You know, so I look for deals when I can or whatever. My next biggest con is storage. You know, this is a nice piece, but I can't put it anywhere. It's like I gotta get a big storage bin just to put this big ass scenery piece in there. And I have another one that's like has another section in front of it with this and pipes and furnace and stuff like that. And it's just huge. It's like, man, where the fuck am I gonna store that? You know what I'm saying? Like, excuse my language, but it's like if you're limited in space like I am, my closet's starting to look like a ridiculous one of those, you know, what's that show where they open up the storage unit, or they buy a storage unit and then they open it up and look inside, see what they get? That's Storage Wars or whatever. That's my closet. If somebody bought my closet, they'd be like, hit the jackpot. You know. So storage is a big issue with this. Pros, obviously, you know, it's plastic, it's durable, it's gonna support, you know, your models as long as it's built properly. You know, it looks great on the table, it looks great in pictures. You know, it just adds to the element of your gaming. You know, this, you know, when you go back to the cardboard stuff, as I said, my pros is just that it's cardboard, it's paper, it's pretty much thick paper. You know, any little thing and it's going to get ruined. You know, you got to be very careful with it if it's going to last. This stuff's got a little bit of laminate on it, which is nice, but it doesn't protect it. I've actually, true story, we were playing D&D. We weren't even using this stuff. I had it on the side of the table. It was just going to be used. Somebody spilled a pop. It was like a big ass fucking Gallo pop from 7-Eleven, and it spilled. And all it did, it didn't even really, it just got underneath. Like it just, you know, it poured underneath, and they were ruined. The whole bottoms were instantaneously, they were mushy and ruined. I was just like, damn it. You know, it wasn't the dude's fault. It's not like, okay, it's not like he did it on purpose either. It's not like anybody spills pop on purpose. People don't do that. But my point being, like, you know, that kind of stuff does happen. And you know, it happened, and it ruined a piece of scenery, and it was what it was. I mean, we tossed it out, whatever. I got more. It's no big deal. It was really cheap, really affordable. I mean, yeah, you could. The pro is you could buy a ton of these for the cost of one of these. I could get 100 of these, or, dude, you don't even have to do that. If I'm not mistaken, you could actually find there's a PDF file online with this stuff. You could print it out and just do paper crap, cut the shit out for free, or whatever the cost of your paper and printer ink is. I personally bought these because at the time printer ink was really expensive, still is kind of. So unless you have a work printer or something like that, you know, I would recommend just getting these, just getting stuff like this and just putting it together. If this is your thing, if this is what if you're gonna use it for like Dungeons and Dragons only, it's perfect. Even for like wargaming, if it's just gonna throw down and play, it's perfect. But like I said, the biggest con is that it's paper. It's really weak, really susceptible to everything. You know, it's quick and easy, but it's very damageable, highly damageable. And this plastic stuff, again, very durable, very tough. You know, long lasting if you take care of it, but it's expensive. And you got to store it. You know, you got to find a place to put all this big crap. Things like this crane, I swear to God, I have a giant gaming box where I have like 2 of these in there because it's just a big awkward piece of scenery that doesn't, you know, it doesn't store easily like these little guys or stack like these guys, you know. And you know, you don't always want just simple stackable terrain. You want to have, you know, a diverse collection of terrain so that gives you, you know, more dynamic areas to play your games on. But like I said, you know, both of them, they have their pros and cons. It's up to you to figure out what you're willing to deal with, you know, for how long, how much. You're gonna buy some plastic kits, spray and play, or you're gonna buy some cardboard, tape and go. You know, I have both, and I do use them when I need them, but preferably I use the plastic over the paper. That's just me, because I know that the plastic lasts longer. Even under some stress, it will last a lot longer. So that's my thoughts. You know, again, in the end, it's your decision what you do with your money and your time. But if you're gonna, you know, if you take anything from this, like I said, it's just a matter of what works for what game you're playing, and you know how much you can afford. Obviously your budget dictates most of this, and just, you know, just be smart with your, just shop smart with it, you know what I'm saying? Look around, figure out what's the best use of your money, you know, in the long run. You know, if you're going to do this for a long time, plastic may be the way to go. You know, if you're just going to play a couple quick games here and there and you don't really need to have a lot of, you know, diverse terrain, cardboard works good too. You know, does the job, gets the job done. So that's just my thought process. Like I said, you guys agree or disagree, let me know in the comments below, or let me know what you think. I mean, what do you use? What do you know, what's your preference of terrain? Do you guys use books, you know, and household items like cups and stuff like that? I mean, I've done that too. You know, let me know. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys.